Welcome back, everyone, to the Bears Profit Plays podcast here on our YouTube channel. Today is December 16th, and we have a loaded weekend slate full of college bowl games and NFL matches to break down. We have 4 bowl games and seven NFL games we're going to discuss today. We have player props for college and NFL weekend, dog of the weekend bet slips, and then we're going to finish up with the podcast parlay. So let's get right into it. No messing around today. We're going to get into the first college bowl game, the Fenway Bowl, Cincinnati versus Louisville. Louisville's -1.5. Over/under is set at 39.5. I'll start with Trey.
This is a hard game to kind of handicap. It's kind of hard to trust Cincinnati right now, especially since they lost to Tulane in the bowl game. They lost their head coach. But it's even more difficult to trust Louisville right now because they're without Malik Cunningham, who had declared it for the NFL draft, and he's sitting out this bowl game. But I'm going to go with Louisville minus the 1.5. I think that is the right play. Louisville is 5-2 ATS in our last 7 games overall. Cincinnati is 1-4 ATS versus a team with a winning record. And Cincinnati is 1-6-1 ATS in their last 8 games overall. I think Louisville might be impacted more with Malik Cunningham being out than Cincinnati might be with Luke Fickell not being there. But I do love this Louisville team, and I think that they're going to play hard and try to win this bowl game.
All right, well, we're going to start off with a different pick here right off the bat because I like Cincy in this game to win. I'm pretty sure Louisville is without their head coach as well. I'm pretty sure I saw that. And Louisville won't have their quarterback, like you said, Malik Cunningham, who's opting not to play, getting ready for the NFL draft. Cincy's going to have an interim head coach, like you said, but they will, and they're going to be out without their starting quarterback. But the reason I'm leaning Cincy is because I think they have the better defense. And both offenses are going to struggle. So I think the better defense is going to win this game. So I'm going to take Cincy in the Fenway Bowl. Teats?
And I will say this. It is crazy. You're right. Louisville is without their head coach, and he left them to go, where?
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So I think that the Louisville is going to play hard, and I think that they're going to try to win that much more.
Yeah.
I'm with Bear on this one. I like Cincy plus 1.5. It is a really hard game to look at. Louisville's record does not reflect the type of team they are, but without their head coach, without their quarterback, that offense really isn't going to be what we're used to seeing this year. Like, they've played really well against a lot of very good Power 5 conference teams, including a huge top 25 win against Wake Forest. But Cincinnati, they've just been rolling a lot this year. They lost to Tulane, but Tulane's a very good team. They did beat Kansas State earlier in the year. Tulane is an AAC champion for a reason. So I think that Cincinnati, there's going to be a little bit of fire there. And I kind of like what Bear said with the defense. I do think their defense is a little bit better. I like Cincy plus 1.5.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly game with those offenses. They're gonna need some time to get used to the backup quarterbacks. But we're on Cincy, and Louisville. What up, Jesse? How you doing tonight? But let's move on to our next game, the Las Vegas Bowl. Florida versus Oregon State. Oregon State -9.5, over under 52.5. Teats, I'll start with you.
I mean, this is an easy one for me. Oregon State -8.5 for the simple fact that it's Florida and Anthony Richardson is not playing. Oregon State has been very good this year. Florida has been pretty much about as average as can be. And the only person, especially I'm just remembering what we talked about Florida State. The only reason that Florida was even in that game was because of Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson has declared for the draft. He's going to begin ready to go to do some combines and the workouts and whatnot. So he's not playing in this game. So I don't know who this backup is for Florida, but I'm sure that he's not what is considered a preseason Heisman candidate. So I like Oregon State in this matchup -8.5. If you guys don't feel comfortable with it, buy the 2 points, throw a little bit more money on it, give yourself at least that touchdown spread. But I feel like this is going to be a 10-point game.
Yeah, I think you should feel comfortable at -9.5. Like you said, Anthony Richardson's not going to play in this game. He declared for the draft. And Oregon State has shown over the season that they can wear teams down with the run, and Florida can't stop the run. And just my personal opinion, I don't like Florida. They just seem not to be interested in trying in football games, and that's all Oregon State does is try. So I like Oregon State to put it on Florida in this game big. I like Oregon State big in this game. Trey?
Let's hear some trends.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go with you guys there. I think Oregon State is going to win, and I think they're going to cover the 8.5. It even dropped a point because whenever we were looking at it earlier, it was 9.5, so I love it even more at 8.5. And I don't mind Teats' idea about maybe buying a couple points at 6.5 and throwing more money on it. But if you look at their team, Florida even has lost more players than Anthony Richardson due to the transfer portal or declaring for the draft. So Florida, their team is pretty shallow right now, so that's why I love Oregon State, and the Trends are with Oregon State too. Oregon State is 6-0 ATS in their last 6 games overall. Oregon State is 5-1 ATS in their last 6 non-conference games, and Florida is 1-5 ATS in their last 6 games in December. Florida does not end the season well over the last few years, and I'm going to look for that to continue here. Oregon State -8.5 for the team ride.
All right, that's a team ride on Oregon State, and I think that's a safe bet because Florida just does not try, and it's embarrassing to watch. But let's move on to our next bowl game, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. What a weird bowl, but it's going to be Washington State versus Fresno State. Fresno State's -4, over under is 52.5. I'll start with Trey.
Yeah, Washington State is coming into this game without their offensive coordinator who left and accepted the job at North Texas. That might hinder their production a little bit, but I still think Washington State is the better team. Fresno State was 0-3 in non-conference game this season, so I think their record might be a little bit inflated due to a weak Mountain West. So I'm going to go Washington State +4. The Trends are really good for that as well. Washington State is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games overall. Fresno State is 0-5 ATS in their last 5 non-conference games. And Fresno State is 2-7 ATS in their last 9 bowl games. Fresno State is good in their conference, but once they go up and play the big boys in the bowl games, they don't cover, and usually they don't win. So I'm going to go Washington State +4.
Yeah, Trey, I'm going to have to take the opposite of you here. I'm going Fresno State in this game. I think, in my opinion, like you said, Washington State's better. I think Fresno's the better team. And the offense has been clicking, scoring over 30 points per game. Fresno State has the 27th best passing attack in college football, and Washington State is one of the worst teams at stopping the pass. Washington State's giving up 350 passing yards per game and will be shorthanded with 3 of their leading tacklers out for this game on the defensive side of the ball. So I like my chances with Fresno State -4. Teats, the tiebreaker. What do you have?
Dude, I'm going with the Cougars, man. I feel like there's even a little bit more for Washington State to be playing for with Coach Mike Leach passing. We know that he came from Washington State as the head coach before going to Mississippi State. Sad ordeal. I feel like if there is anyone with residual feelings for what Mike Leach was able to do for Washington State, they'll want to play harder for him. Washington State also consistently has just a very strong air raid passing attack, and they always score a lot of points. Actually, my overall pick was over 52.5. I do think that both teams will end up scoring quite a bit in this game. It's probably going to be a back and forth game, but I like that Washington State has +4 points. I think Fresno State might be the better team overall. I just think that Washington State is going to keep themselves in the game long enough, and losing by a field goal is not really out of the question. They could win, but I like that they get 4 points here.
All right, so I'm lone wolfing it then. I like that. I'll take it. That's fine by me. But let's move on to our last bowl game for tonight. It's going to be the New Mexico Bowl, SMU versus BYU. SMU -4, over and under 64.5. This is my member lock. So go check that out on BearsPrivatePlays.com and become a member today. So I'm not going to give a side, and I will start with Teats.
See, I'm kind of scared about this take right now because I know that SMU has no defense, lots of offense, and BYU has been so inconsistent. But I kind of feel like 64.5 is going to be a little bit too high for me. So I'm going to go with the under here. Obviously, Tanner Mordecai, the dude can absolutely sling it. They put up 80 some against Houston just a few weeks ago, and one of historically the most points scored in a college football game ever, and may not be broken for a while because I don't even know if there was actual defense on the field. I think they just put 11 dummies out there. So everything that I said really contradicts my take. I just feel like with this being a bowl game, a little bit more high stakes pressure, maybe BYU kind of clicks it in a little bit more. I just think that 64.5 is going to be too high for it.
Trey?
Yeah, we know this by now. It's mid-December. We know Tanner Mordecai is an absolute dog. In a time where everyone in the college football world sits out of bowl games and declares for the NFL draft, Tanner Mordecai is declaring for the NFL draft, and he is still playing in his bowl game trying to rise his stock. So that is awesome, and I love him even more. But his stud wide receiver, Rashee Rice, is out. So that might hinder his production a little bit, but I still love SMU here. I think SMU is going to win. And I'm going to buy a half point, and I'm going to take them at -3.5. I don't like pushes, and I would rather, get the half point and buy it at 3.5. BYU is 2-8 ATS in their last 10 games overall, and BYU is 2-6 ATS in our last 8 bowl games. Like Teats has said, BYU has been really inconsistent this year. We don't know which team's going to show up, but we know what SMU is going to do. They're going to put up a ton of points. And BYU, once they get in the bowl games, it's kind of like Fresno State. They dominate their conference. Well, and once they get into the bowl game, they just get blown out and usually don't even win. So I'm going to go SMU minus 3.5 for my pick.
All right, so SMU member lock and Teats is on the under for that game. But let's get into some college football player props. We're going to give 1 to 3 player props for the weekend slate in college. I will start with Teats.
So we say it every week, every day. We don't really talk about who our player props are beforehand. We did kind of have a small conversation right before we went live. I know that I'm going against some member here, and you'll find out here in a little bit. I have Cameron Ward over 260.5 passing yards. I just got done talking about Washington State. They have a very good passing offense. As you can see, he's hit this number only once in the past 5, but he hit it when it mattered when they played Washington. It didn't end up mattering. They lost the game, but I think that when he's given the opportunity to sling it, he will. I just think that 260.5, it's a high number, but I feel like this game is going to be going down to the wire, so they're going to have to do what they're best at, which is passing. My other pick is going to be a rushing prop. I'm looking at Taylon Green over 25.5 rushing yards. Leading Boise State, not a bad passer by all means, but he does a really good job on the ground. As you can see, he has hit this mark the last 3 games he's played, 3 of the last 5. In this type of situation, I think that them versus North Texas, he's going to be able to get out, run away, and gain some solid yards. I think 25.5 is just going to be a little too low for my liking. So I think that the over is going to be perfect.
I like those Teats. Trey, how about you?
Yeah, and I'm just going to get to it. I was the one that Teats was contradicting, and we'll see which side you guys like more, because I do think Cameron Ward is going to be a popular player prop for this game. And I'm just going to say it. I think he's going to go under the 260.5. Ward is going into this game without his offensive coordinator. I think that is going to hurt him more than help him. And like Tita said, he's only hit this over in 1 of his last 5 games. So he has been a little cold towards the tail end of the season. And Fresno State is ranked 10th in the nation, allowing only 167.8 passing yards per game on the road. That is not very much, so I don't think that Ward is going to have much success against the Bulldogs defense. And Washington State only throws for 223 passing yards on the road this season. Cameron Ward is great at home, but once you put him in an unfamiliar environment, he does not pass the ball as much as what we're used to. And then my next one is going to be Jake Haener over on passing yards. Jake Haener is the Fresno State offense. He kind of is like baby Derek Carr. Derek Carr was passing for a ton of yards at Fresno State, and that's exactly what Jake Haener is doing. And Haener's hit this number in 3 out of his last 5 games and gets a great matchup against a terrible Washington State pass defense. Washington State ranks 4th to last in the country, giving up 351.3 passing yards over the last 3 weeks. They have been getting toasted towards the tail end of the season, and I kind of expect that to happen again. So I'm going to go over the 280.5 for Jake Haener and under the 260.5 for Cameron Ward. So we'll see what happens.
Well, someone's going to win that prop, I know. So that'll be good. But I'm only going to give out 1 prop because it's a loaded weekend and I want to give out a lock. And it's going to be Jake Haener, not his passing yards, but over 2 passing touchdowns. We just discussed that Washington State is horrible against the pass, and Fresno State does not run the ball well. So I think this line is too low for what could be potentially a shootout in this bowl game. So I like Jake Haener over 2 passing touchdowns in that game. But let's move on from player props to NFL games on a Saturday. Yes, a Saturday NFL games. We have 3 of them. We're gonna start with the Colts versus the Vikings. Vikings are minus 3.5. The over under is 47.5, and I will start with Teats.
So typically at this point, especially in previous seasons, I would be so anti-Minnesota that it would be crazy. And it's very possible that, Kirk Cousins keeps a couple chains at home, kind of comes back to the normal Kirk that we know. However, I just think that -3.5 is going to be too low. I think that the Vikings could potentially win this by 10 or more. So I like the Vikings -3.5 for this play. However, with me saying that, I also like the under for this play as well, 47.5. The Colts offense is just so hit or miss, so streaky. And I don't see the Vikings scoring more than like 30, 35 because the Colts defense can actually be pretty good. So combining that together, I could see this being like a 35-10 ball game. We might sweat a little bit for the under. I hate unders, but
Come on,
it's just
unders
a
are
good
awesome.
feeling.
Unders are
Oh,
horrible.
unders hurt because they can be broken so quick. Whereas overs, even if you're down 90 with 2 seconds left, you still got a chance.
Overtime. Yeah. But, so you're going Vikings in the under? Official
Vikings
play?
and the under.
Okay. Give me the Vikings to destroy the Colts in this game. The Vikings are being disrespected. The Colts are bad. They are very bad. Sure, they got a spark game with Jeff Saturday for his first game, but the Vikings are the way better team, and I don't think it's going to be close. So I'm going to take the Vikings in a blowout. Trey?
The universe is telling us what to do, guys. Do you guys not see what's happening here?
Nope.
The Colts playing on a Saturday with Jeff Saturday. That's all the reasoning I need to hammer the Colts here. Well, that and the Trends are also on the Colts side. I'm going to go Colts plus 3.5. And the Trends are pretty good with the Colts. Colts are 5-1 ATS in their last 6 Saturday games. They love playing on Saturday and give me that Jeff Saturday boost on that too. Vikings are 3-9 ATS versus a team with a losing record. And the Colts are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games against the Vikings. So I'm going to go Colts here plus 3.5. They have the Vikings number, and I will expect that to continue.
So Vikings, Colts, and under. But let's move on to one of the weirder games and one of the weirder lines of the weekend. Ravens versus Browns. Browns -2.5. Over under is 38.5. Trey, I'll start with you.
This is my member pick on BearsProfitPlays.com. It will be dropping tonight. I'm going to get it out to you guys a day early, so be on the lookout for that. And like Bear said earlier, just go to BearsProfitPlays.com and click the Become a Member tab. We got a few pricing ranges for you guys to choose from, and I would recommend don't miss out on this pick.
I love it. But I'll go next. I love that, Trey, and I love this game because the Browns have been horrible with Watson at quarterback, and yet here they are, -2.5. Vegas knows something. They're favored. I understand Huntley is in for the Ravens. He cleared concussion protocol, but the Ravens should be favored in this game. They've beaten better teams than the Browns with Huntley in. So I'm going to take the Browns. We saw this with the Lions game last week. I took the Vikings. I got caught in the rat trap. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to take the Browns -2.5. Teats?
Oh, I'm riding with you. The Browns -2.5 is the play. Deshaun Watson just needs to get back into the groove of it. He will eventually get back to being that dude. And, overall, that entire offense is it has so much potential to be very dominant. I mean, we've seen this Cleveland Browns offense with a couple different pieces, arguably potentially even worse pieces, make it very deep into the playoffs. I think that with Deshaun, once everyone starts to get used to each other again, that the Cleveland Browns could be at least above mediocre, especially if that run game can get going again. So, and I don't trust Huntley as a quarterback. So I'm going Browns -2.5.
And I will say this, ESPN was talking about this today. The Browns are treating the rest of their regular season like preseason games for Deshaun Watson, trying to get him acclimated into the system so that he can hit the ground running. And so, I like the Browns. I like the Ravens. I think this will be a good game to watch.
The Browns should run 22 and 23 dive until their arms fall off.
They should.
Give it to Chubb as soon as Chubb gets hurt. Give it to Hunt.
But all right, let's move on. We're going to go Dolphins versus Bills. Bills -7. Over under is 44.5. I'm going to start. Sunny Miami going to Buffalo. A lot of talk about Miami being soft last week, having heaters in the dome on the sideline with 52-degree weather. Forecast for Buffalo in this game, 24 degrees feels like 10. Here is the weird stat of the day for Miami in the cold. In games that are under 34 degrees, Miami has a 7-14 record since 2008. I don't care about that. I'm going to take Miami +7 and win this game. Nobody cares. It's going to be cold outside. The better team will win, period. And that's going to be Miami in this game, who's been struggling lately to put together wins. But they won't struggle in this one. I like Miami to win. Plus, what's his name? McDaniel. He was wearing that T-shirt and dancing around. I love that. So I'm going to take Miami to win this one. Teats?
I did love that video. I did watch McDaniel just dancing around, having such a good time. This is also a member lock for Bears Profit Plays. I'll be dropping this article soon, hopefully within an hour or two after this is done. So definitely go check it out, see kind of what I'm thinking and what my take is on this, see how it compares to what the rest of the group says, you know?
I love it. Trey?
Come on, guys. Miami's hot streak is coming to a screeching halt over the last couple of weeks. I don't think that's going to get any better traveling to cold Buffalo. Like Bear said, it's going to be really cold there. And we all saw that the Bills are not putting heaters on their sidelines. So NFL rules say that the Dolphins can't put heaters on their sidelines. So we saw that the Dolphins were putting heaters on their sidelines in LA last week in 50-degree weather. They are going to freeze to death in Buffalo. So I'm going Buffalo -6.5. I'm buying a half point, so I'm going -6.5.
I know it was for their comfort, but that might be the softest thing I've ever seen in an NFL game.
It might be.
That was
honestly
ridiculous to watch. But let's move on from the Miami game and let's go to player props for Saturday in the NFL. I'm going to start. I'm sticking with one pick, and I'm going to make it a lock like I made the other one a lock, and I'm going to put them all together in a parlay at the end. But my lock in for this one in the NFL Saturday game is going to be Justin Jefferson over 87.5 yards against the Colts. You can't stop this man. The only person who knows how to stop JJ is Kirk Cousins in prime time, and we don't have that problem Saturday. If you can get this man under 100 receiving yards any week, you need to take it, you need to forget it. So I'm going to take JJ over 87.5. Trey?
223 receiving yards last week. I am so happy that I have him in so many of my fantasy teams. I'm going to give you guys two player props. The first one's going to be Deshaun Watson over 209.5 passing yards. I think that the Browns are going to let Watson pass the ball as many times as he wants to kind of get him used to the system. 209.5 is a really low number. We have seen that he has struggled since coming back. He did have 276 last week against the Bengals, so I do expect him to hit this number. I'm not quite for sure why it is so low, because the Ravens have one of the worst pass defenses in the whole league. They are ranked 7th worst in the league, giving up 249.2 passing yards per game. And this number is well under that. So I'm going to go over. I think Deshaun Watson should have a good game against the Ravens on Saturday. And then my next prop is going to be Michael Pittman Jr. over on his catches, 5.5 catches. Michael Pittman Jr. has been a little bit of a roller coaster this year, but I think this number is a sweet spot for him at 6 catches, because Jeff Saturday actually has been passing the ball a lot more than I think we all expected him to, because they are passing 34.3 times a game with Jeff Saturday, and that's ranked 12th in the NFL. So they are towards the top end of the league in passing attempts per game. And I think that this is a low number for Pittman, like I said, because Minnesota has one of the worst, actually the worst pass defense in the NFL, giving up 287 passing yards per game overall. It actually gets worse when they play at home, giving up 290 passing yards per game.
Oh my God.
So, and I was thinking about a Matt Ryan over, but I don't really trust Matt Ryan, but I do trust Michael Pittman to get open and catch 6 passes. So those are my two player props. Michael Pittman Jr. over 5.5 catches, and Deshaun Watson over 209.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I will say with Matt Ryan back, I mean, that's such good news for Pittman. Like, without Matt Ryan, he's not worth anything. So I like that Matt Ryan's back, and I like those catches on Saturday or on Sunday. But Teats?
You know, I always like to name some of my parlays, and you know, I've kind of noticed that I'm doing 2 props for everything, so I'm gonna call it the triple dub. Why not?
Triple dub.
So we'll start with Watson over passing. I'm riding with Trey.
Sweet.
It should be the most locked in player prop in everyone's bets. The dude can sling it, and I think that the Ravens offense is going to do a good enough job to at least, you know, move the chains, get a field goal, a couple touchdowns here and there. Their run game is very good, even with Huntley still in. I think that Cleveland's going to have to be the pressing team on offense. And how else are they going to do it? Hand off to Nick Chubb. They don't like to be doing that too often, so let's pass the ball with Deshaun Watson.
No,
209 is just too low for him not to hit it. The other one, we're going back to the Colts game. Give me JT over his rushing yards. The last time I took JT's rushing yards, it did burn me. He missed it by like 1.5 yards. I think 81.5 is just too low. As you can see, he's hit this 4 of the last 5 with 4 straight. Jeff Saturday does like to pass the ball, but he also does like to run the ball. And I think that he plays it with the idea that if we pass 34 times a game, you don't know when I'm going to run Jonathan Taylor the 18 to 20 times a game too. So you're going to have to figure out when am I going to run. And typically it works out for Jonathan Taylor, as you can see. 147 against Las Vegas, 82 against a very good Dallas front seven, 86 against a very good Pittsburgh front seven. I know that they're a little banged up. I mean, he's been running against really good defenses, especially against the run, and succeeding in the sense of this prop right here. So I like the over.
I like that pick, Teats. I have JT in fantasy, so I need him to go off for my first week in fantasy. But let's move on to NFL games for Sunday. We're going to start with the Lions versus the Jets. Lions -1, over under 43.5. What a great game this will be. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year this game would mean so much to both these teams, both fighting for a playoff spot? But Trey, I need some trends for this game.
It's interesting that the line is still +1 for the Jets, even though Zach Wilson is starting. So it kind of just shows that Vegas doesn't think Zach Wilson is that bad. Or maybe they just think that the Jets defense is that good. Who knows? But I'm going Lions. Do I need to say anything else? Have you watched Dan Campbell's post-game celebrations with the teams? It is absolutely electric. Yeah, he makes me want to go put on some pads, and I would get absolutely destroyed on the field, but I don't care because it's Dan Campbell. And the trends are very good for the Lions. Lions are 6-0 ATS in their last 6 games. Lions are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games in December. And the Lions are 8-2 ATS versus a team with a winning record. I'm going Lions money line in this game, and I really hope they win because I love Dan Campbell.
Yeah, you said it. I think we have to back Detroit, and I'm going to back Detroit. They're red hot, and Mike White won't be playing. The Jets are going back to Zach Wilson. But regardless of who's at quarterback for the Jets, the Lions have earned my respect, and I think they've earned everybody's respect in the league now. So I think if they win this game, they could be a real playoff threat. So I'm going with the Lions -1 to stay hot. Teats?
I mean, you said exactly what I was going to say here with the whole Zach Wilson thing. I mean, the Jets are so uncomfortable with Zach Wilson at quarterback that they practice White all season long, or all week long. Sorry, all week long, hoping that he'd be ready, and the doctors would not release him. They do not feel like Zach Wilson is ready to take back over, but they're having to. So I think it's just a recipe for disaster. This should be a game that Zach Wilson could step up and do well because the Detroit Lions secondary is not very good. But the dude's too worried about his own ego and his own image than he is making sure that his team feels like he supports them. Yeah. I like Detroit Lions -1.
Elijah Moore is petrified that Zach Wilson's
Wilson, like nobody likes the guy.
Anyone taking player props, anyone in fantasy, if you have Garrett Wilson, if you have Elijah Moore, bench them now. Maybe not Tyler Croft or whoever the tight end is. The tight end's actually typically been doing okay with Zach Wilson because all he has to do is run 3 yards, turn around, the ball's already in his face.
All right, we're on for a Lions sweep. Please, Lions, don't disappoint us like you have for so many years in a row. This is the year they turn it around. But all right, let's move on to the game of the week.
Game of the week for Jesse.
Yeah, Cowboys and Jaguars. The Cowboys are -4.5. Over under is 48. This is a very simple comment from me. I'm going to make it short and sweet. Dallas wins this game with great defense, and Dak Prescott has to protect the ball. If they do that, they win this game, no problem, by double digits. I'm taking Dallas -4.5. Trey?
I love Dallas. Jacksonville is a really good team. I'm really nervous about how this game outcome is going to be. Jesse, I didn't want to give you a heart attack, so I'm not going to pick a side. I'm actually going to pick a point total. And I'm going to go under the 49.5 because I think the young Jaguars offense versus the young Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be really fun to watch. And I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game, to be honest with you. But I'm going to buy a 1.5, and I'm going to go under the 49.5. 48 just seems like too weird of a number. So I'm going to go under the 49.5, and it's -3 or -138.
I like that underplay.
Oh, and I forgot the trends. The under is 7-3-1 in the Cowboys' last 11 road games, and the under is 6-1 in the Jaguars' last 7 home games. So the under is the trendy trend. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, when the Jags don't score, that under's definitely going to hit. Teats?
I think that this line is very disrespectful for the boys. I'll be on your side. In years past, I've hated Dallas Cowboys. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I know that they're very good. And this Jacksonville Jaguars team is starting to figure it out a little bit, but they're still pretty young. I mean, you've got a second year quarterback and running back, or third year, second year. I can't even remember anymore. Either way, they're very young, and they keep juggling through head coaches. They may have landed a good one here with Doug Peterson, but the boys are just the boys. The Dallas Cowboys are too good. Dak Prescott, if he can hold on to the ball and if he can figure out what he's doing, when he's at his peak, it's insane. I think that 4.5 is too much of a disrespectful spread, so I think the boys win by like 15.
And I understand the line because last week, good Lord, they looked horrible.
They did.
But they still won the game, and this line's too low. Like, there's no way that they're getting disrespected like this. But, all right, let's move on before I have a panic attack. Bengals versus Bucks. Bengals are minus 3.5. Over-under is 44.5. Teats, I'll start with you.
I'm not taking the spread on this one. I don't know how I feel about the Bengals. I don't know how I feel about the Bucks. The Buccaneers are winning games, but it's been ugly. So I'm going to go with a point total, and I'm taking the under of 44.5. The Buccaneers have proven that they do not like to score. They do not like to score early. They like to, dig themselves a hole and somehow find a way to dig themselves out of it. I'm a little afraid because the Bengals offense is very good. But the Bengals are also that type of team that when they play a team that they should probably put 40 points on, they just disappear. Joe Burrow will probably get sacked 8 times, throw 2 interceptions, and only have like 150 passing yards, and the game still might be like within a 7-point spread. So I think that the under here it's an ugly play, but it's a play that I feel is right.
Yeah, I don't hate that under at all, Teats. I think that's a good pick, but I will say the Bucks are broken. Their offense is horrible. The defense looked horrible against Brock Purdy last week. They gave up 35.
They did.
So as we all know, since that happened, this is the game they're going to win. They still have Tom Brady, so I'll take the plus 3.5 against the Bengals and pray and hold my nose. I'm not going to watch the game, but I'm going to take Tampa plus 3.5.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you were going to go Bucks because they were home dogs, and you love the home dogs. And more often than not, I think I saw a stat that their home dogs this season are over 60% hit rate, so that's not a bad bet. But man, Brady's fall from grace this season has been really tough to watch, and I love Brady more than anybody. But so I really hope that he can turn it around and they can get back to when they won the Super Bowl in 2020, and we'll see that same Tom Brady, and he'll raise a trophy and say, "Let's fucking go." But I'm gonna go the Bengals here minus 3.5. The trends are terrible for the Bucks, and it kind of looks like it's going to continue to go terrible for them. The Bucks are 1-9-1 ATS in their last 11 games overall. Bucks are also 1-6-1 ATS in their last 8 home games. Bengals are 13-3 ATS in their last 16 road games, and the Bengals are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games in December. Bengals here, and like Jesse said about Dallas, I feel like this is a disrespectful line for the Bengals minus 3.5. If they show up and play, this game should be a 7-point win, maybe even a double-digit win for the Bengals. We all saw what the Bucks looked like last weekend, and if it's anything like what they played against the 49ers, this game will get ugly real quick and real fast.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, but I have to take Tampa plus 3.5. But let's move on to our last game for NFL. Giants versus Commanders, a rematch of 2 weeks ago that ended a tie. The Commanders are minus 4.5. Over under is 40.5. This is my Sunday members lock for BearsPrivatePlays.com, so go check that out. Become a member, see who I took, but I will start with Trey.
It's extremely hard to bet against Taylor Heineke, and I think we all feel that way. He has shown to be dog mentality through and through, and I think he'll try to win this game no matter the cost. He does not care about his body. He'll dive over 5 people. He'll throw a ball into coverage with 3 defenders around Terry McLaurin. He does not care. And Chase Young's coming back this week. I think that's going to be a massive boost for the Commanders. I'm going to go Commanders minus 4.5 here. The trends are good for that side. Commanders are 6-1-1 ATS in their last 11 or in their last 8 games overall. Commanders are also 4-1-1 ATS in their last 6 games versus NFC. And the Giants are 1-8 ATS in their last 9 games in December. The Giants do not finish the season strong. We all know that. The Giants are also 2-5 ATS in their last 7 games versus the NFC East opponents. Brian Daboll is a good coach, but I think the team is, the team's talent is what it is. Their best receiver is Kenny Golladay, and he's not good. So I think the Commanders here is the right play at minus 4.5.
All right, so you're on the Commanders minus 4.5. Teats?
I really wish that I could branch out a little bit, but man, it doesn't seem like it. I like to ride with at least one person. Let's tag team it. Commanders minus 4.5. Trey kind of hit on it, but really, like Taylor Heineke, he's a winner. He has that dog in him. And I know that Carson Wentz is now backing him up. Carson Wentz, he still can win games, but he's just not a leader. So we can get into that later, especially as we get closer to like postseason time and whatnot. But the thing is the Giants have been atrocious the past 6 weeks. The moment that team started to literally fall apart with injuries is the moment that Brian Daboll lost the opportunity to be coach of the year. I don't know if it's so much his fault. He just really cannot keep up with every other team right now. He's got one offensive weapon outside of Saquon, and he's not even an offensive weapon that most teams would really want to count on with Darius Slayton. You know, there's not really a whole lot going on for the Giants. The Commanders are still, rocking steady. They got that two-headed running back monster. They've still got Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson's kind of getting himself back into the end zone again. Maybe the Giants win this game because everything feels like the Commanders, but I'm never going to go against the Commanders in this situation.
All right, so you're both riding the Commanders, and that is my member pick on BearsPrizePicks.com, so make sure to check that out. But let's move on to our last slate of Sunday player props for the NFL on Sunday. I'll start with Teats.
Oh, God, I hope that my grandparents don't roll over in their grave when I say this. I'm taking Pat Mahomes under 290.5 passing yards. And I can tell you right now, he's hit this 4 of the last 5 before Trey even pulls it up. I looked at it, and it just was a gut feeling. Against Cincy, he didn't hit it. Denver, but it just comes down to it has to be a competitive game. If they get up big, he'll still throw, but it may not be for huge chunks. Houston's defense isn't terrible. Houston's offense is so sporadic. You don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know if this is going to be a competitive game, though. I feel like 290 might be a little bit too high for my liking. God, I'm looking at all these 300 passing yards, though. It's hard. He's my quarterback for the team that I like, but I'm going against him. I see some like 267 yards under his belt for
I mean, the Texans are probably going to give him a ton of short field situations. So, I mean, It's not like he's ever going to have to drive 90 yards for a touchdown.
That's true.
There's going to be a lot of short fields for him.
So that's my one. But like I said, I'm doing the triple-double for all of this. I got one more to bring you. Trey's going to love this one. I'm taking Josh Jacobs over his 82.5 rushing yards.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's a sketchy one because the Patriots defense is still very good. But Josh Jacobs has been in a league of his own this year. He has like a 200-yard gain on the next running back in terms of just total yards rushing. He's been a monster. He's hit this mark for the last 4 straight, even against Denver, even against Seattle, even against the Chargers. Honestly, even the 5 teams that we're looking at for the last 5 games that they played, all are considered to have had really good front 7 players. Maybe not Seattle too much, but the other 4 have. And he's just been eating. I don't know if Derek Carr will ever figure it out the rest of this year, but I know that Josh Jacobs knows what he's doing. He's running for that money. So 82.5, too low for me. Take that over.
I like that, Teats. I'm not going to hop on it. I'm going to stick to what I have. I'm going to stay with the trend of giving one lockout. So hopefully I go 3-0 at the end of these player props. I'm going with Derrick Henry, King Henry, over half rushing touchdowns against the Chargers. This is free money. And if you parlay all 3 of my picks on PrizePicks, it's a nice little chunk payout. Chargers are horrible against the run, and it should be free for King Henry all day long. So I like him to find the end zone. The 3-leg parlay is going to be Henry touchdown, Jake Haener over 2 touchdown passes, and JJ over 87.5 receiving yards for my player props this weekend. But Trey?
I love those 3 picks. I might actually bet that bet slip myself. Oh, yeah. But I'm going to go if you guys watched last week, I gave 2 Jared Goff unders. Jared Goff hit both of them by the end of the first half. So that was really fun for me to watch. And you know what? I'm going to run it back to the mill with a Jared Goff under because the situation's a little bit different. He was home last week. I don't know what I was thinking. He was playing in a dome. He could pass for 5,000 yards in a dome. But he's going to go to cold and chilly New York. So I think that Goff's going to struggle at least a little bit. And Goff has thrown for 54 yards less per game on the road versus at home. So Goff struggles on the road, and it's getting colder, so I expect him to get even worse on the road. And the Jets allow the 6th fewest passing yards per game with 189 per game. So I think that is going to be tough for Goff to get at 230. I think that they're going to feed DeAndre Swift. Jamal Williams is questionable. We don't know if he's going to play, but I think Swift is going to have a big game against the Jets. So I'm going to go under on Goff's 230.5. And then my last player prop is going to be a rushing yards, and I'm going to go with the quarterback here, possibly the best rushing quarterback in the NFL, and it is going to be my boy Justin Fields. Justin Fields has turned on a show, and he plays and he plays this Sunday against quite possibly the second best rushing quarterback in the NFL against Jalen Hurts. So I think that they're both going to kind of go at each other, kind of show I'm a little bit better than you. No, I'm a little bit better than you, and we'll see what happens. Fields has hit the over in 4 straight games, and he's going to be running a lot because we all know that the Eagles' pass rush is really good. So I think he's going to be running for his life, let alone that the Bears are going to call up a handful of designed runs for Fields. So I think that Fields at 68.5 is a pretty good number. We've seen him hit this number pretty consistently. So those are my 2 player props: Justin Fields over on rushing and Jared Goff under on passing.
I like those. But let's get out of player props and go to the dog of the weekend. We're going to start with Trey.
Dog of the weekend. Start with the winner, the only one winner. We've done this 4 weeks in 4 weeks now, and we've only produced one winner. We need to get better at picking dogs, but it's so hard whenever the chalk is the chalk. But I'm going to go with the Bears here at +9. I think there's a chance of a letdown game here for the Eagles. They're coming off a big win last week against the Giants. Even if you look forward next week, it's against Bears-Cowboys. So they could be overlooking the Bears. I think +9 is a good number. And if I get this, I'll be at 20 points, and I'll be celebrating like crazy.
Trey, I will fall on my knees if the Bears beat the Eagles. That's going to be the happiest day of my life if that happens.
Man, I took North Texas +10.5. I'll tell you right now, I'm a go big or go home kind of guy. It's such a stretch for North Texas to beat Boise State. Boise State is a pretty good team overall. North Texas has looked like trash half the season, but I'm looking for an upset. I'm looking for a surprise. I'm hoping the Mean Green Fighting Machines come out and they get me a dub. I should have went with my gut earlier on when we started doing this and just go for like the +5, +6 points. But once Nebraska screwed me, it was over for me. I'm always all in on the double-digit points. North Texas, don't let me down. Give me that +10.5.
We're all in for the Hail Marys now because we waited too long. My pick is going to be Miami +7. This pick was because of Mike McDaniels dancing and wearing a "We Love the Cold" t-shirt. He's just a likable head coach, and the players like him, and the players are going to win this game for him against the Bills. So I like Miami to pull off the upset in Buffalo. But let's get into our weekend bet slips now. I believe I'm starting. Yes, I am. All right. Look at that handsome mug. All right. My member plays are going to be SMU versus BYU and Pittsburgh Steelers versus Panthers this weekend. I have Oregon State -9.5 against Florida. Florida won't be interested in competing after Oregon State hits them in the mouth early. I just think Oregon State takes pride in playing this season, and Florida doesn't, like we discussed. Then have Florida State or Fresno State -2.5 to beat Washington State. We talked about how Fresno will be too much through the air for Wazoo. Wazoo has a really bad passing defense. I have the Browns -2.5 because last week I was tricked by the Vikings in Detroit game. This game has the same feeling, so I'm going to take the Browns. And a little bit of college basketball on Saturday. Houston versus Virginia, under 113.5. Under 113.5 points for a college basketball game. Challenge accepted, Vegas. I will take this challenge. I will take it all the way to the bank, smiling my ass off when this cashes. These are the best 2 defenses in college football in college basketball, in my opinion. Houston's a little bit better than Virginia on defense, but Virginia is no joke either. These stats are insane. Houston is keeping opponents to an average of 49.5 points per game this season, and Virginia's keeping opponents to 57.9 points per game this season. So this might be a 47-52 kind of game, and I'm going to watch every single second of it, and I'm going to love every single brick I see, and I'm going to take the under. So,
that's not a bad pick, honestly. Like, if there's a team to keep another team, even if they have a good offense, under 50 points, it's Virginia. They're just known for it.
I love it. All right, Trey.
Well, I'm going to kind of ride off what Bear said about college basketball. We got a good slate on Saturday, and I'm pretty excited to watch it. Alabama versus Gonzaga. That's the first game that I'm going to break down for you guys. I'm going to go Alabama moneyline. Gonzaga cannot cover a game to save their life, it appears. And I think the public kind of loves Gonzaga because of what they've done over the past few years, and they don't really, watch the game and because they haven't been covering, but the public still loves them. because if you look at it, Gonzaga is 3-15-2 ATS in their last 21 games overall. Gonzaga is also 1-9-1 ATS in their last 11 neutral game sites. This is not a home game for Gonzaga. This is a neutral site game, and it is also in Alabama. So it's kind of a home game for Alabama. So I'm going to go Alabama money line on that one. And then I'll break down the Houston versus Virginia game. Bear likes the under here, and I love Houston here. I think Houston has started the season as maybe one of the best teams in the country, and they've surprised a lot of people starting the season 10-1 and playing a lot of tough competition to get to that record. And that's why they're ranked number 4 in the country. But they are playing a Virginia team who is ranked number 2. Virginia is also undefeated at home, but they've only covered one game at home. So that record's a little misleading. The trends for the game is Houston is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 road games. Virginia is 0-4 ATS in their last 4 games overall. And they're also 1-4 ATS in their last 5 home games. So I'm going to go Houston money line with that pick. And on the left side of my weekend bet slip, I'm going to go Texans plus 14.5. I go 2-2 on my weekend bet slip every week. I'm hoping to go a little bit better. And each of those 3 weeks, one of those wins has been fading the Chiefs, and it's going to continue to happen. I'm going to go Texans plus 17 or plus 14.5. The Chiefs are 0-5-1 ATS in their last 6 games overall. The Chiefs are also 0-6-1 ATS in their last 7 games versus a team with a losing record. So I'm going to go Texans here plus the 14.5. I obviously don't expect them to win, but I expect them to keep it at least within double digits. And then my last one is going to be Washington State plus 4. I gave my whole spiel about why I like Washington State earlier, but here are the trends again. Washington State is 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games overall. Fresno State is 0-5 ATS in their last 5 non-conference games, and Fresno State is 2-7 ATS in their last 9 bowl games. Those are my 4 weekend bet slips. I'm trying hard to not go 2-2. I'm trying to go 4-0, but we'll see what happens.
Trey, I'm going to add Alabama money line to my bet slip against Gonzaga. Alabama scored 71 against Houston last game, and they beat them. Mm-hmm. That's 22 points over Houston's average. So Alabama can score with the best of them. So I like Alabama.
Alabama's pretty good.
I'm going to add that to my bet slip. But Teats?
Sweet.
All right. Do I start left or right? I think I went 3-2. Let's turn that into 4-1, 5-0. I'm always shooting for 5-0, but I'll settle for 4-1. That's still a pretty good record. We'll start with the left. We'll start with the Colts and Vikings. Vikings minus 3.5. We talked about it. Saturday might be getting those boys revved up on Saturday, but the Vikings are the better team. I think as long as Kirk Cousins can find all of his chains and make sure that they're all in the right spot, no one steals them, I think that they win by 7. Bengals, Bucks, I said it already earlier, under 45, under 44, whatever the mark is. The Bucks defense can be shut down. Like in terms of like they can stop the offense pretty well. We saw it even though it was the Saints. We did see them literally completely shut them down in the second half for them to win that game. The Bucks just somehow find a way to win games, even if it's scoring like 18 points. However, we did see what happened against San Francisco. However, that still was under 45, so that would still count as a win. As long as the Bengals either shut the Bucks out and don't score 45, or the Bengals don't show up like they have done in the past, I think under 45 is pretty safe. Moving over to the right, this is all college football. I did not bring you guys any basketball, so let's kind of get into it. Cincy, Louisville, we already talked about it. Cincy plus 2, I like them over Louisville. Oregon State, Florida. Oregon State minus 8.5. That is a for sure lock. And Washington State, Fresno State, over 53. I know that Bear and Trey both had them kind of going in opposite directions. I just hope for a good football game, high scoring. Let's have a shootout. Let's just kind of see what happens.
There we go. I like that.
I like those Teats. But all right, let's move on to the last segment of the night, the podcast parlay. We have not hit one yet, but we've gone 2-1, I think, every single week. So this is the week. We'll start with Teats.
All right. Well, I just finished talking about them. Give me Washington State, Fresno State over 52.5, 53.5, whatever that mark is. I think the highest that I would go before feeling too uncomfortable is probably like 56.5. I don't think that line will get there within, overnight, but who knows what happens. I think that's a pretty solid lock.
Yeah, and I'll go next. I'm going to take the Bears and Eagles over 48. No matter how I look at it, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. And trust me when I say this. I've looked at it in a lot of different ways, Teats. From the left, from the right.
I
98 other directions. Shout out Michael Scott. But
Upside
this
down.
is an Eagles team that can score 50 on the Bears, and Justin Fields is good at football as well, if you guys didn't know that. But I think this is going to be a lot of points scored, and I think Justin Fields can match the Eagles. I think this is going to be a shootout. So I'm going to take the over 48, and don't clip that I said the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Trey?
Bear, if you need help, blink twice.
I say you are beyond lucky that Cam and James and all the boys aren't in here because that'd be rough. But I'm going to move on to mine. Argentina to lift the cup. I went World Cup for my podcast parlay lock. It is going to be really fun to watch. And if you like France, if you like Argentina, if you like either side, it is basically a pick'em game. So if you like the football plays but don't like Argentina, you can put France in there. And it's going to be the same amount of payout. But I love Argentina. You cannot fade Messi. Argentina is the team of destiny. They are winning by penalty kicks. They are winning no matter the cost. I think the refs might be kind of pushing Messi to the finish line and giving Argentina the win. I don't care how they win. I think Argentina is going to lift the cup, and I think Messi is going to ride off into the sunset because this will probably be his last World Cup because he's getting up there in age.
This is his last World Cup. But
yeah, so Argentina is going to win it for him. Put in that into a parlay plus 575, and that is a great way to end the weekend.
I love it. But before I give this outro, I just want to give a shout out to JR, Jalen, and Jesse in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. It makes it worth it. Even if it's 2-3 viewers, you guys make it worth it coming in here and chatting. So thank you very much for the support. We really do appreciate it. But that will do it for our NCAA football and NFL pick predictions and player props for this weekend. If you guys enjoyed the content, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel below. We'll see you guys next video, and thanks for watching.